Chapter 1. Mossy Shaw was a senior in high school, a bookworm with a pensive expression who often walked the halls fiddling with the single braid over her shoulder. Cindy Tao was a troubled freshman with a reputation for fighting and causing trouble wherever she went. Despite these differences, they were good friends. Every morning, Mossy and Cindy walked to school together, using the time to catch up on each other's lives. Usually, Mossy talked about how busy her mother kept her with tasks for the family, which left little time for her own interests. Cindy complained about the things her brothers did while laughing at their antics. She never talked about her parents, but her frustration was evident in each eye roll and heavy sigh. They led different lives with their own unique challenges. These mornings, when they could vent freely to each other, were therapeutic for them both. But Cindy always asked Mossy to wait for her by the street. The morning was crisp and unusually cold for spring, as Mossy waited at her usual spot. She adjusted her backpack and glanced at her watch. Cindy was late. She was never late, especially since she didn't want Mossy to knock on her door. The longer she waited, the more anxious Mossy became. As it always did when there was trouble, her heart began to race, her chest tightening until the beats rattled her ribcage. Her brown eyes zoned in on the house that seemed darker and gloomier than the rest of the neighborhood. Cindy's parents were opium and gambling addicts, while her father stayed tucked in his room, smoking his bongs, and her mother was away at the casino. It left their 15-year-old daughter the brunt of raising her younger brothers. It was largely why Cindy always rushed home and was a particularly hostile teenager to those who didn't know her. The world wasn't fair. Mossy's ears perked at the sound of angry voices amongst a strange symphony of hissing and cackling. A moment later, her friend burst from the house as if escaping from something or someone. As Cindy rushed past her, Mossy noticed tears streaming down her freckled cheeks. Her usually neatly tied blonde hair hung loose from her hood, mirroring the raw emotions radiating from her body. A man stood at the door, barking profanities. He looked like Cindy, with the same square face and small eyes, but he was stocky with tattoos along his arms. Maybe it was how the sun hit the porch, but a storm cloud brewed around his head. The harder it clung to him, the wilder his eyes became. He glared at Mossy before slamming the door shut. She shook herself of the image and ran after Cindy. Who was that?
It's my freaking brother.
Cindy wiped her eyes as she quickly continued down the street. The one in jail?
They released him yesterday. He thinks he can just come home and tell everyone what to do. Who does he think he is?
She rarely spoke about her brother, but Mossy suspected she was okay with him being locked up. The raw anger seething from the man at the door made it easy to understand why. Everything about his demeanor screamed danger. Mossy frowned. What did your parents say? Cindy slowed down enough so the two could walk alongside each other.
What could they say? My dad is barely conscious, and my mom is too scared to say anything. She just hopes he won't start breaking things in the house. God, I hate this so much. I could just kill myself.
Mossy tried to comfort her. Don't say that. Things will get better. Cindy looked at her for the first time.
No, they won't. You don't understand. Every day is like survival of the fittest in that house. The weak don't survive. I'd have given up long ago if it weren't for my little brothers. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mossy was at a loss for words. Cindy was street smart and frequently got in trouble for fighting. She wasn't scared of anything, but she feared Chewy. Brother or not, Mossy didn't understand why any parent wouldn't protect their children. If you need to get away, just come to my house. You've got to stay positive, okay? She said finally. Cindy lifted a brow.
You mean don't kill him?
Yeah, please refrain from killing anyone. A big grin spread across her lovely face. Be productive.
What the hell does that mean?
It means don't go to jail for murder. You can get rid of him after you graduate and go to college. Mossy drew an invisible rainbow with her fingers. Cindy shook her head sadly.
Me? College? Please, fighting dirty is the only thing I know how to do.
It was the only way she knew how to survive. College, Cindy thought with amusement. She'd be lucky to graduate high school. Children doing adult things changed the way they saw the world. She was raising her little brothers because her parents were unfit. Sometimes she even stole to keep food on the table. The rest of the time was spent fighting everyone who judged her. To most people, Cindy was like the rest of her family, just another bad apple. You don't have to fight alone. Mossy squeezed her hand. Cindy heaved a big sigh. If she had to trust anyone, it was Mossy. Studious and quiet, she was the opposite of Cindy in every way. But it was Mossy who'd run into the campus bathroom, swinging a bat at 4 girls, trying to bully her on the first day of high school. They eventually ran away, screaming for their lives. No one would have guessed the mousy Mossy had frightened them. Cindy wouldn't have believed it if she hadn't seen it herself. Mossy was tougher than she looked. In any case, it was the first time anyone cared enough about Cindy to fight for her, and it was the first time she wanted to call anyone a friend. If Mossy promised a better future, Cindy would try to believe it. It's going to be okay. Come over later. We'll study so hard you won't even remember you have a dirtbag brother. She laughed when Cindy made a face. Unless it was a special occasion, spending time at Mossy's house was like boot camp, where the children kept a strict routine of study, chores, sports, and more studying. At the very least, her parents were kind to Cindy and welcomed her into their home. This welcome was extended to a tiny circle outside of the family. Eva Garcia was among that small circle and was waiting when the girls arrived at school. She greeted them each with an iced mocha, fresh from her coffee job. You are the best. Mossy savored the sweet liquid and gave Eva a grateful nod. They had been best friends since the 3rd grade. Even though Mossy's mom distrusted the company of outsiders, she wasn't immune to praise. It was hard to deny a girl who constantly commended her style and cooking. Eva grinned, revealing a row of perfect teeth.
De nada, amigas.
You're welcome. What took y'all so long?
Cindy shifted uncomfortably. She was close to Mossy but didn't know Eva as well.
I gotta get going. Thanks for the coffee, Ev.
Before Eva could respond, Cindy was gone. She turned and asked,
What's up with her?
Mossy shuddered as she thought of Chewy and the dark clouds around his head. Family stuff. Better not to ask. As the girls walked to their first period class, Eva talked excitedly about weekend plans. She was touring the University of California in Berkeley and couldn't wait to see the dorm rooms. Eva had saved all year to buy whatever it took to make her new rooms sparkle. But preparation was difficult when one didn't know the dimensions or storage space available. That is so exciting, Mossy exclaimed.
Are you sure you can't come?
I wish I could, Mossy replied with a soft pout. But my cousin's been sick, and we're going to see him this weekend.
That's too bad, Chica.
Eva couldn't help showing her disappointment. Then she arched a brow and asked,
Did you tell your parents the news?
Mossy sighed and chugged down the rest of the coffee. Her best friend knew her too well. Eva was touring Berkeley alone, but both girls had received their acceptance letters. Next fall, they would attend college together, but Mossy still needed to tell her parents, who expected her to commute to the local university. Good Hmong girls stayed home. I got cold feet, she said defensively when Eva glanced at her sideways. Hey, it's just not that easy. My mom went straight from her parents' house to her husband's. That's the way it's been done for centuries. That's what she keeps telling me anyway. They'll never agree to let me move away to the big city where they
can't watch you every day.
Eva came from a single-parent home where she was used to seeing independent women make their own decisions. Besides that, Mossy was 18. Her parents couldn't stop her even if they wanted to. At least, that's what Eva thought. Mossy sunk into her chair and looked out the window. She wanted to have adventures like the ones she read about in her books and saw in the movies. Meanwhile, her parents wanted her to stay home, attend the local university, and eventually marry into a good Hmong family. Khang and Blia only wanted the best for her, but what Mossy and they felt was best differed. Sensing the shift in her mood, Eva cast a beautiful smile.
Never mind. We'll figure this out together. For now, let's think about prom. You still coming to my house next weekend, right?
Mossy's eyes lit up. Her parents didn't know she was going to school in the Bay Area, just like they didn't know she was going to prom with her secret boyfriend, Dylan Reed. Is that dress still hiding in your closet? Eva rolled her eyes, and both girls giggled as the bell rang. While most students hurried to flee campus after school, it was normal to find Mossy on the track. Running was a way to cope with stress in a life that often felt out of control. Stuck in her own world, she never noticed the boy watching her. Dylan Reed, Valley High School's most stellar athlete, was impressed. The girl always arrived alone and stuck to the same routine: stretching, jogging, sprinting, jogging, and then stretching again. Once, he observed her gracefully leap over all the fence hurdles like a gazelle. Then, she left without glancing in his direction. Dylan wasn't conceited, but he wasn't used to being ignored. As a result, he found himself paying more attention to Mossy. He became determined to introduce himself and thought running alongside her might be the perfect opportunity. On the 3rd mile, Mossy finally noticed the boy keeping pace beside her. Dylan Reed often ran on the track, but never stayed long. She wondered if he was training for something special. After 10 miles, Mossy showed no signs of slowing down. Finally, Dylan admitted defeat. His long legs were no match for her incredible stamina. If he couldn't beat her, he could at least get in her way. A moment later, Dylan was sprawled along the track, and Mossy almost fell over him. "What are you doing?" she asked, studying the boy who seemed perfectly fine lying on the ground.
"Waiting for you to jump over my body,"
he replied without opening his eyes. "Why would I do that?" Dylan abruptly sat up.
"Because you always ignore me."
Confused and slightly annoyed, Mossy responded, "I'm sorry. I didn't know we had that kind of relationship." They were not friends. She was sure of that.
"We do. I've been coming here every day, and you haven't said one word. Hi, Dylan. What's up, Dylan? Hey, nice hair, Dylan."
Mossy wondered if he had a head injury because he was acting strangely. "Hi, Dylan. Are you okay?" He glanced around nervously, running fingers through his golden locks. Although he did have nice hair, the charismatic class president seemed like a nervous wreck.
"God, I hope no one is recording this."
Recording what?
Dylan Reed looking like a dumbass in front of the girl he likes.
For several seconds, Mossy was too stunned to respond. She was a Hmong girl who lived under strict customs and traditions. Dylan Reed was an American boy who did what he pleased when he wanted. These details alone set them apart. Why would he be interested in someone like her? Still, she couldn't help laughing as he pouted like a little kid. At first, Dylan was confused by Mossy's reaction. Then he joined in her laughter, and everything changed from that day on. Life became more vibrant and exciting with Dylan by her side. The memory brought a smile to her face, but it quickly faded as a pretty girl with sandy brown hair appeared. Dressed in tiny shorts and a crop top accentuating her small waist, she hopped onto the bench and began playing with Dylan's hair. She was Amy Edwards, the most popular girl in school. Dylan said something that made Amy shrug. As she returned to her friends, she cast a cross expression at Mossy. Whatever Dylan said, she hadn't liked it one bit.
"Hey, Moss,"
he greeted with a smile. Moss. He was the only one who called her by that nickname, and she loved it. When he wrapped his arms around her, she melted into his embrace. She had needed this touch all day and didn't even mind that he was sweaty. "I've been texting you," she said, looking into his blue-green eyes. "What happened?"
Just busy.
Dylan looked away, running fingers through his hair again. But when he looked back at her, his smile also returned.
Did you miss me?
Mossy furrowed her brows. "I was hungry." Dylan laughed and kissed her.
Well then, let's get you some food, Moss.
Just like that, all her worries disappeared. Mossy couldn't be happier. A small voice reminded her that she should get home soon, but she pushed it aside. For now, she just wanted to focus on spending time with Dylan Reed. He was also going to college in the Bay Area, and she was excited about the future of their relationship.